Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Nick Gray, and this here is the brand new Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, which means it's time for another smartphone camera test. Let's get to it. Now, as I typically do, besides that intro, everything else that you see in this video is going to be recorded on the Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, just to give you an idea of how this device performs in everyday use. So just keep an eye on the bottom of the screen to see which cameras are being used for the photos and videos that you see. But let's take a second to talk about the camera hardware on the Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, because it is a little bit different than what you typically see on most other devices. While you have 3 cameras on the back of the phone, it's effectively a 4-camera device because the telephoto periscope camera actually has an active zoom ranging from 3.5x to 5.2x, with everything in between that range actually being real telephoto and not a digital crop. As far as the resolution of the cameras, that main camera is actually a 52 megapixel sensor that's effectively taking photos at 48 megapixels, but then that is pixel binned to 12 megapixels, and there's no option in the software to change it to a full resolution 48 megapixels. For the ultra wide camera, you do get a 12 megapixel sensor, as is the 12 megapixel sensor for the zoom camera on the back, and then the selfie camera as well is 12 megapixels. And all of those cameras can record 4K video starting at 30 frames per second, but some of them can go up to 120 frames per second. That gives you 4K slow motion video, which is something that you rarely see on a lot of other devices. Now, I know you guys don't want to hear me drone on for a full 14 minutes as you're looking at these photos and videos. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them as best as I can. But also make sure you stick around to the very end of the video to see how this device performs in low light conditions as well. As mentioned already, the selfie camera on this device is capable of capturing 4K video at 30 frames per second. The only downside here is that it is cropped in just a little bit close for my taste. So if you do have a selfie stick and are able to move it a little bit further away from you, that's always going to be a better option here. But of course, if you flip things around to that main camera, the quality of the video is definitely going to be a lot better. Take a look. And here we go, a look at the main camera on the back of the phone. And as you can probably tell already, the quality of the video is a lot better with a shallower depth of field rather than having everything in focus. The only issue is framing yourself, but if you can get that right, the results are going to be a lot better if you use the camera on the back of the device. thing that I do love about Sony's devices is that they always have the dedicated shutter button on the side of the phone. So recording video, you don't always have to just be pecking at the screen to hit that record button. You can just use your finger on the edge of the phone to hit that shutter button to start recording or capturing your photos. And then the volume rocker, rather than taking photos as it does on so many other devices, is actually used for zooming in and out, which makes it extremely convenient when you're trying to use things and you just don't want to touch the screen and you want that tactile feeling of an actual button to use and control the device. As far as camera apps go, you do have a lot of versatility with the stock camera app on this device, though there is one tweak that I wish they would make. When you switch to the bokeh effect, you actually have to switch over to the camera mode and then hit the bokeh button in order for it to give you a shallow depth of field. On any other device, it just does it automatically. Really not sure why you have to switch camera modes and then turn the feature on after that in order to activate it. It's something that Sony should definitely work on with a future software update. Taking photos in low light conditions. This is truly where we're probably going to see. So now that I'm out taking photos in low light conditions, this is where we're probably going to see the most use of that high dynamic range and longer exposure times with the multi-frame stacking with the computational photography on this Sony Xperia 1 Mark V. Previous generations really didn't do that well in low light conditions unless you were actively changing the exposure time and using a tripod, but we should be able to see some pretty good results in these conditions today. I'm out here just taking them. But from what I've seen so far of just what's on the screen, it's definitely a big improvement over what we saw on last year's Xperia 1 Mark IV, and similar in quality to what we can get on a lot of flagship tier devices. Now I'm gonna have to do some side-by-side comparison with devices like the Pixel 7 Pro, the iPhone 14 Pro, and the Galaxy S23 Ultra, just to see what those results actually are. But typically at this point in my camera test, I would be really disappointed with the results that I've been seeing so far, but not this time around, which is a very good point in Sony's favor with the Xperia 1 Mark V. And that's gonna do it for this camera test. And that's gonna do it for this initial camera test with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark V. So far, I have to say I am pretty impressed with what I've seen, but let me know what you think of the results in the comments below, and if you think this device can go up head to head against flagship tier devices that are in similar price range. This is a $1,400 smartphone. So honestly, it's really only the Galaxy S23 Ultra that it's gonna be competing against, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more camera tests with this device and camera comparisons, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.